Let me go to trial veteran there in Florida, Bobby Reiff. He specializes in DUI, and he is the author of a book, Drunk Driving. Back to you, Bobby. I understand you've got a problem with the HGN. Explain.
Well, there are several problems. First of all, what I think the prosecution has done is overplay their hand. The courts in this jurisdiction have said that while you can, under some circumstances, use this particular exercise, you can never equate it to a blood alcohol level. What they have done is put in improper evidence.
Whoa, wait. Why, if the cops did this, Bobby, and it happened,
yes,
and it's the truth, why don't you want the jury to hear about it? What's improper about that?
Because it's so prone to error. The courts have said, wait a second, this would be a violation of a defendant's due process rights to admit the blood alcohol content based upon a police officer's determination of an angle of onset. Remember, he said he got an angle of onset at 40 degrees. He took 50 minus 40 and said it was a 0.10. The courts have said that's ludicrous. The studies have said that's ludicrous. You can't use it to determine a blood alcohol content. And quite frankly, my opinion is that when this gets up before the appellate court, they're going to say, you were wrong by admitting this, and it's just an issue of whether or not they're going to say it was harmless or not.
Alan, Bobby Reiff, you want in?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I want in. You take away my Starbucks in the morning, I'm going to give you an argument. It doesn't matter whether or not I've been drinking or not.
Wait a minute.
And
you
trust
must
me,
be raking in the money as a defense lawyer down there. You actually pay $3 for a cup of coffee? You're kidding me.
No, actually I don't. But I'm telling you, that is not an indicator of somebody being impaired.
I heard all good things about you as a defense lawyer, and when you just told me, you know, you paid $3.50 for a cup of coffee, I nearly fell off my chair.
Actually, I don't even really drink coffee.
Oh, I do.
In the morning.
I tank up, but
let
good.
me tell you.
Let me tell you
something.
Forget decaf.
You know, we're talking about the HGN test here. He gave a blood alcohol level based upon that test, not the breath test. He said, based upon what I saw, onset of the angle when I took the pen and moved it, that's where I came up with the 0.10, not from the breath test result, which was administered later. And you want to talk about breath tests? Let's talk about the breath test for a minute. Do you know when this machine was made? 1985. 1985.
Well, the telephone was invented a couple of hundred years ago, and it still works too.
I'm sorry, what was invented a couple hundred years ago? The telephone was invented,
well, not a couple hundred years ago. The telephone was invented decades ago, and it still works too.
Yeah, it works, but we've improved upon it. We have a machine that in 1992, this machine that these individuals were given their breath test with was condemned. That's their word,
by who?
Not
the
mine.
Bar?
Their expert, their person who maintained that machine in June of '92 condemned it. He took it offline. He said it needs to be repaired. We are condemning it. That was 13 years ago. You're talking about, do you have a computer on your desk from 1991? Do you have any machine, a toaster, a telephone that you just mentioned, anything at all from 1991? Well, the police do. They're still using old technology. They know the new technology is out there. They're not using it. And you know why? Because they won't pay $3 for a Starbucks coffee. They won't pay the $5,000 to put the new machine online. And they know that these machines have problems.
You know what you are?
They know that they are.
You know what you are?
What am I?
You're good.
Tell me.
You're good.
Thank you.
Because you had me totally sucked in for about, a good 45 seconds there. I was mesmerized. Oh my God, there's something wrong with the machine. You had me totally, I was listening, and if they lay that on the jury the way you just laid it on me, we may get an acquittal or a hung jury. Joining me at the courthouse, Robert Bobby Reiff. Now you know why he wins so many cases. Alan Ripka, when we get back, it's your turn, buddy. The heat is on. Here in the studio with me, Dr. Jeff Gardere, psychologist and author. We'll be right back. Please stay with us. Welcome back to Closing Arguments. I'm Nancy Grace. Thank you for being with us. Final thought to defense attorney Bobby Reiff joining us out of Florida.
Well, Nancy, I'm concerned about the bill that the prosecution keeps jumping up and down about. I don't believe it. They talk about how they had 7 large beers and then 7 small beers. Does anybody drink that way? Does that make any sense to you? I mean, we had the stewardess say she had the dirty martini. She said the other stewardess had the small beer. I got to believe that these guys had the 7 large beers between them, and that it was really 1 small beer for the stewardess who was there early, and that was it. I don't know anybody who goes to a bar and says, okay, I'm going to start off drinking a large beer and then turn it around and have the same amount of small beers.
Okay, wait a minute. Bobby Reiff, if you got your bill and you saw that you were overcharged, wouldn't you say something to the bartender?
Nancy, do you look on your bills? Wait a second.
I do every single time. Every single time. Ever since I read a New York Post article about 30% of restaurant bills are overcharged, like they'll add something extra.
Wait, you got it right there. 30% of bills are wrong. 30% of bills are wrong. And hey, before you...
If you would let me finish, my point is, I always check. So don't tell me that out of 4 people, they didn't check the bill and didn't notice 7 additional beers on there. No.
Well, wait a second. Who checked the bill? The only person who checked that bill was the person who signed for it, who was used. And I would guess that he probably didn't read the same Post article that you did.
Well, you know what?
Most people don't read the bills.
That both he and the bartender were wrong. Both of them have been on the stand, and both of them have been I know the bartender has been on the stand, and he was subjected to an an intense cross-examination. And believe you me, if there were a chance that he had overcharged them by adding too many drinks, that would have been brought up, and it was not. It's just you.
Well, wait a second.
Coming up with theories that have no ground, they're not grounded in the evidence whatsoever.
Well, wait a second, Nancy. When you go out, if you're drinking large beers, do you suddenly say, I'm going to have a bunch of small beers? That's not how I'm a beer drinker, and that I can tell you. Now, maybe not coffee, but beer. I don't go to a place and drink a whole bunch of large beers and then say, hey, let's switch to the small.
Well, you know what? I've got an answer for you.
Sense.
Maybe by the time they got to the bottom of the large beers, they were getting warm, so they decided to go with a small beer.
I don't quite believe that one. I think mine is better than yours, Nancy, and I got to tell you, I think they made a mistake. I think that bill is wrong. You saw that bartender testify. He's not the brightest bulb in the lot.
I thought it was pretty darn good. And you know what? We'll see what this jury thinks. And regardless, small beer, large beer, I guarantee you, Bobby Reiff, it boils down to these 3 independent people smelling alcohol on these guys when they came through the security line.
What's an odor? An odor means you've had something to drink. It doesn't mean you're intoxicated.
You're not supposed to drink before you get behind the wheel of a jet plane.
But that's different. That's not what the law says. That's not what the law is about.
You know what?
We're not in the court of morality
here. You just don't want to admit it.
We're not in the court of morality. We're in a court of law. What they did was wrong by drinking and then trying to fly. That was wrong. And I'm not going to support them, and nobody, I think, will support them about doing that. That's the way they took away their license.
Where'd you go to law University. School? Boston, BU?
Boston University School of Law.
How'd you end up in Florida?
My lovely wife.
Is she a lawyer too?
I'm afraid so.
Oh.
She's a better lawyer. She's a better lawyer than I am. She'll tell you that.
Bobby Reiff is joining us, veteran criminal defense attorney in that jurisdiction. Thank you, friend. I hope you can come back another day and argue with me.
Thank you. I'll see you on Thursday.
Okay, dear. So to Bobby Reiff. Bobby Reiff is a veteran DUI lawyer there in the Florida jurisdiction. Bobby, last night, Bobby joined me on my headline news show last night. We got into a rip-snorting fight. I think I won. He thinks he won. To you, Bobby, what is that? A Starbucks coffee? You know what?
I brought you one. I mean, just so I can bring you one, so you can point out that if one of your people try to take it away from me, you know, I'll give them a fight too, and no, I'm not intoxicated. But
well, I've got a double-fisted hot tea for you, buddy, and I didn't pay $3.50 for the 2 of these either. So, Bobby, what's the significance? You're holding up a Starbucks coffee. I say, hello, if a guy smells like beer and he won't let go of a Starbucks coffee going through security and he's headed for the cockpit, grab him by the ankle, don't let him in. Now, what's your defense, Bobby Reiff?
Well, one of the things that they should bring up is, wait a second, they didn't do that. Here it is, they claim they smell alcohol, they see some signs of intoxication. Why didn't they do that? Why didn't they tackle him? Why didn't they say, wait a second, sir, I need to bring my supervisor here, do not go any further? And that's one of the big questions that I have. You know, everybody who was involved with this, they smelled an odor. Okay, that means you've consumed something with alcohol in it. Doesn't mean you're impaired. Their speech was fine, their walk was fine, everything about them was fine. They looked a little tired, that's okay. But that doesn't make someone impaired. And again, the operating, that's a nice little red herring. The issue is, were they legally impaired? Were they guilty of this crime? And I think that's the part they should be fighting for most.
Back to Beth Karras. Beth, let me go to DUI lawyer Bobby Reiff there in the Florida jurisdiction. Is that a good argument to try to suggest to this jury, which is now all men, right, Bobby? The one woman was thrown off.
That's correct.
That these guys didn't finish a beer? I don't think so.
Well, again, Nancy, you and I have had this argument. I think the bill was wrong. The testimony was from Denise that she had the martini, that they were both drinking large beers. They charged them for 7 large beers and 7 small ones. The other flight attendant said she had 1 small beer. I think the bill was wrong. I think they charged him for 7 small beers and they should have charged him for 1 because that's all they ordered. I think that's a better argument than saying the bogeyman drank it, that somebody else was bought the small beers, because then you would be buying 6 small beers for a whole lot of people, and I don't think that's really supported by the videotape or the evidence. I think they got charged wrongly here. Nobody I know, and I go out with a lot of hockey players after games and we have some beers, nobody drinks a bunch of large beers and then suddenly says, let's change to the small ones. It doesn't make sense.
Beth Karras, while that's a beautiful argument for the defense, carefully thought out by a veteran trial lawyer, Bobby Reiff, is there any evidence, a shred, to support it? Welcome back to Closing Arguments. I'm Nancy Grace, and I want to say a big thank you to defense attorney in the Florida jurisdiction specializing in DUI law, Bobby Reiff, and of course to my friend and colleague, Beth Karras. Beth, thank you, friend. I'll see you on the airways tomorrow, okay?
Okay. See you later, Nancy.
We are quickly... Bye, dear.